Hey guys, I just recorded the whole episode for this week's uh, Conquering Your Fears and realized that I hadn't actually recorded it. So here's our second go around on it. And on today's perspective on conquering our fears, what I want to talk about is perspective. And one of the things that I like to do is photography. And particularly one of the subjects that I like to capture on photographically is old architecture, old churches and old buildings around town. And one of the things that we're blessed with here in this area is just a lot of material with which to work. And want to share this picture of a church that I took up in Seattle. And let's see, I need to share the screen. Just bear with me for a second. So I'll share the screen and show you what I'm talking about here. So this is a church that's up on, I think it's the First United Church up in Seattle. It's on a hill up there. And when I saw it, I was walking through that area, and I just saw this really amazing building. And the first thing that came to my mind is I'd really like to capture that. And the problem was that the area in which I had to work was really narrow. I couldn't stand back from the church very far in order to get a good panoramic view. And so when I'm out shooting sites like this, one of the things that I do is I like to go from lots of different angles, and I'll go from the right side, left side, and I'll go from the right side, and I'll go in the front, and I'll get up close and step back and so forth in order to end up to getting something that I really like. And in the process, I end up taking a bunch of shots in order to get what I'm looking for. And that's what the situation is here with this problem, with this church. And the problem was just, getting a shot that really resonated with me. And so we can do the same thing with our fears. We can face our fears. We can look at our problems and find a different angle with which to look at it from. And by doing so, we can have more hope. We can have a better view of what's going on. And an example I like to use in my own thinking, and sometimes sharing with other people, is a dream that I had when I was a young person. I had just finished reading Robinson Crusoe. And for those of you who are familiar with the story, Robinson Crusoe gets shipwrecked and ends up on an island, and there are other natives there, and that's kind of a survival story. Well, after watching that, or reading the book, or watching the movie, I'm not really sure, don't remember which one it was, but anyway, after going through the story, I had a dream, and in it, I dreamt that I was like Robinson Crusoe, and then I was shipwrecked on an island, and I was attacked by the natives and had a spear thrown through me. And when I woke up, I was, sweating and just really kind of freaked out by the nightmare that I just had. And I decided, I don't like the way that turned out. And so I had the thought, well, what if I create a new story for it? And so instead of being attacked by the natives, I remembered, reimagining it and thinking that perhaps instead I could look at it as becoming friendly with the natives, and that we have a good relationship and are able to kind of come off. Well, anyways, it was a good relationship, and it was a whole lot better ending for the dream than what I had imagined. And so what is a different way that you can look at your fears? What's a different perspective that you can take? And recently I had another experience in which I just felt really overcome by the challenges that I was facing. And I felt really weighed down by the problems that I was going through. And I had the thought, what if I do something that is a more positive way of looking at this problem? And actually I thought, what if this were a cartoon? What would represent that? And I had the thought, well, you know what, Popeye, for those of you who are familiar with that cartoon from years ago, was always defeated at first by Bluto, and Bluto is just twice or three times or four times as big as Popeye was, and it looked like it was curtains out for Popeye until he popped his can of spinach, of all things. And I had the thought, well, you know what, if I were Popeye and I had this challenge that I'm facing, if I could look at it as Popeye, then I could pop my can of spinach and be able to come off victorious over the problem. And for me, one of the strengths that I have is just being able to look at things with a sense of imagination and sense of creativity. And by looking at the problems that I was facing, I was able to see some different solutions, some different problems, different ways to attack the problem. And in doing so, I was able to go from really feeling kind of down about what was going on to feeling a lot more sense of hope. And so today's challenge for you is to look at your problem. What's a primary problem that you're facing? One of the ones that you've shared already this week, or another problem that you're encountering. And instead of looking at it as being defeated by it, what's a more empowering way to look at it? What's a way that you can look at it that that gives you hope and that gives you different perspective? So that's the first thing, is take a different perspective on a problem, current problem. And then secondly, what's your can of spinach? What's your superpower or your ability, your strength that you bring to problems over and over again that help you to become off victorious? And as you look at that challenge, figure out, realize that you have the power to come off victorious. And of course, share a blurb about what you're facing and what your superpower is, what's your strength, what's your can of spinach that will help you to come off victorious. And until next time, have a great day and go conquer your fears. I'll see you on the other side. All right. Bye-bye.